the table, drinks in the air. Welcome to the podcast with the perfect pair. From the fell to the bar, we're keeping it live. Wrist poker, good times, and a whiskey on ice.
Grab a drink, call a raise, and let's shuffle up and deal. This is Cards and Cocktails.
Welcome everyone to Cards and Cocktails, as always located right here at Odds Bar and Bistro, right next door to Lodge Card Club. Slick Rick and Skull Mike. And Skull, we have a very special guest, one that I've wanted to have on since we started this show.
Yeah, you're calling this guy every week. I'm like, relax. He doesn't wake up early. He's more of a night owl. Robert Iler, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm a poker player, you know?
Yeah, he's like, we'll call him at 10 a.m. We'll call him at 9 a.m. He'll be there. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no. He wants to do it at 5 o'clock, 6 p.m.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys for doing it a little later.
No,
nice.
We're glad to have you. And, Skull and I got to know you actually from playing right here at the Lodge. You're a big poker player, and we'll talk about that tonight. We're going to divide the show up into 4 segments. One, we're going to ask you some questions that you can answer briefly. Then we're going to ask you a little bit of deeper questions. Finally, we'll ask you, get into some more stuff, and end with Jeopardy, where we'll ask you some questions. If you answer them correctly, you'll get points, and then you can go for risk all the points. And, we've had 4, 5, 6 podcasts already. They've all risked all the points. We expect you to do the same.
We're poker players.
Yeah, I'll bid $1.
There we go. So let's go ahead and get started. So you grew up in New York City, which is kind of unusual for kids to grow up in New York City. What was your family like growing up?
Wild. A lot of drinkers, a few druggers, a few, But, my brothers and sisters, some of them grew up upstate. And we always talk about how different it is. Like when I was 8, 9 years old, you start just the world is yours. You walk out your front door, and I never had to say like, Mom, can you take me to the movies? Can you take me here? Can you take?
Right.
And I remember when I would go see them upstate when I was like 16, and I would kind of, if I was hanging around 16-year-olds my age, I felt like they were 10 years old.
Right.
Because you're like, these people are like, they're still like mommy and daddy, and they were like, I remember walking to school on my own. I don't know how old, but like 9, 10, you're walking a mile in New York City to go to school by yourself. And then these kids like can't go to the bathroom without their moms, and you're like, but yeah, New York City, I wouldn't want my kids to grow up there, but I'm very happy I grew up there.
Yeah. Well, Skull, you're from Long
From
Island.
Long Island.
Different.
So I was probably like a little kid.
He was calling his mom.
Yeah, I'm the one calling my mom to go to the movies at 16. But I still feel like I grew up pretty quickly, but maybe not as quickly as you did.
So I've read, and this may or may not be true, that you were kind of discovered while you and your dad were walking down the street in Manhattan.
That's true.
And then you immediately were thrust into a Pizza Hut commercial?
I did like Pizza Hut, AT&T, IBM. Yeah, I did. I had like a pretty successful run of commercials for a bit.
And, I've got to say, around 1999 when The Sopranos came out, they really started the second golden age of television. Before The Sopranos came out, there was nothing like that on TV. Since then, obviously, Breaking Bad and other shows that have come along, but you got your start with the Sopranos. How did that come about? What was the call like to get the job, and then did you think it was going to be what it was going to be?
No, I remember there was a lot of talk of people thinking that it was about singing, obviously, because it was called Sopranos, but then also it was like, I remember being in the audition, and I was the only you can't really tell when people are Italian, but because it was, once you found out it was an Italian show, kids would like ham it up, you know, like there were little kids with like the slick back hair and the white t-shirt and trying to be a certain thing, and I just remember not really giving a shit, and I think that's what the creator, you
got the part.
That's what the creator of the show wanted. Like I would go in there and I had to curse in my lines and he's like, this kid curses like he curses every day. And it's like, it's because I did. We're like these other 12-year-olds who were like, mommy, and then like they were trying to curse and it was like a big deal or whatever. And it was
authentic.
Yeah. They felt like this kid could play an ungrateful, spoiled, brat. Yeah.
Well, Skull has promised. He made me promise not to make this whole show about Sopranos because
just a little bit.
You're doing great so far.
It is my it is my Mount Rushmore. I've got The Sopranos and Breaking Bad 1-2 or 2-1. I don't know what they are, but they're up there. But I'm going to ask you one more thing. You had an incredible scene that I want to ask you about. Probably the most dramatic scene of all the years of Sopranos, when you were you wanted to end your life, and you were in the backyard on the diving board with a cinder block in your hand.
Yeah.
Tell me about that scene, and how long did it take to film it, and how did you get yourself prepared for that scene? That was incredible.
Yeah, I forget if it took a few days or whatever, but I do remember, like, it was in December, and people were like, how did you do that? And it's like, you just did it.
Yeah.
Like, you sat on the edge of a diving board, fully clothed, you threw a brick into the water, you followed the brick, and then James, who played Tony, would come running out. He would lift me up onto the, it's 10 degrees outside. He lifts you up onto the side of the pool on the concrete, and people are like, you looked so sad. I was like, I was fucking sad.
Right.
Like, it was miserable. Like, it was this horrible day. And then you would finish, as soon as they yelled cut, me and him would run into the garage, and they had like jet engine type heaters that would warm you up. They would put the clothes in the dryer. They would have to dry your hair, reset you all over again. And then as soon as you went outside, it was like you sit on the edge of the diving board, you throw yourself in, and it was just...
How many takes?
I don't remember. A lot. Because you had to do like... there was a shot from straight on. There were shots, so it's all different shots. I mean, they never made it do it a lot from a certain angle, but to get all of the angles took a long time. But also what you said of like, not talking about Sopranos. It's been 20 years. There's a guy, I've told this story before, but there's a guy on Sopranos named Max Casella, and he was in a show called Doogie Howser.
Right.
And I was doing like an event with him one time. And somebody said to him, like, oh, I love Doogie Howser. And the person's, like, wife was like, oh, he doesn't want to talk about that. Like, don't embarrass him or whatever. And the guy was like, no, Doogie Howser is the reason I have a house. Like, It's Thursday afternoon, and we just had lunch, and I could go play poker now because of Sopranos.
Right.
So I'm even though, like, obviously I don't want to talk about it every minute I'm awake. It's like I never feel bad talking about it, because it's given me the life that I'm very grateful to have,
Tom Petty once said, he's one of my favorites, but he once was asked, do you get tired of playing the same old songs? He says, absolutely not, because that's what paid for everything that I have, and maybe today. But
sure.
Let's switch it. How did you get to play poker? You finish, I believe you finished 275th in the 2011 World Series of Poker main event for about $40K. We see you at the lodge a lot. How did you get involved in poker, and what do you love about it?
I remember when I was like 17 or 18-ish, there was a underground poker spot in New York, and there were a few of them at the time. I forget Mayfair or which one, PlayStation, which one it was.
Teddy KGB's place?
Right, yeah. and I remember going there, and even though I wasn't good, I remember being better than my friends who went, but also people there. But I just remembered people being like, wait, what does a flush beat a straight? And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? Like, you don't understand this game. And then my mom told me that when I was around my grandmother a lot growing up, and she took care of me a lot, and my mom was really young, and she would babysit me, or when she was watching me, we would play rummy just all day. And then with my cousins, I would play spades and all these games. And so with your grandmother? With my grandmother, I would play rummy. You did that too,
Skull. Yeah, my grandmother taught me poker too.
Really?
Yeah.
So then, like, I didn't play it for a long time because I just wasn't playing cards. And then I remember just being around these people and being like, oh, these people don't get it. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't understand. And not that I'm some great poker player, but I was never confused about, like, wait, why did I lose there? And like, I said, there's people who play for years and they still are like, don't understand, like, when they got counterfeit or these certain.
It came naturally to you.
Yeah. And I felt like I got it. And another thing I enjoyed about poker is like, poker doesn't give a fuck.
Right.
Like who you are. Anybody could sit, like when I told you guys, but I went to Vegas for 2 weeks to play the World Series, and I stayed for like a year and a half. And like, if you put your name on the list, you fucking come sit down. Right. Like, there is no...
I think we just got our thumbnail rigged, too. We got to put it out there. Poker doesn't give a fuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right there on the thumbnail in quotes. Genius.
Yeah. And that's what... And I remember also, like, there were several times I went on vacations with friends for, like, a week. And one of those days I would go play poker and I would pay for my whole trip.
Yeah.
Like in that thing, I remember one time I was in St. Martin and I like chopped a tournament. And when I was in Amsterdam, I was playing cash games and I'm like, oh, you can just like pay. And again, I think a lot of it now with like GTO, there's stuff that people don't talk about as much anymore, which is like game selection and this stuff that you had to be good at when I was playing poker 20 years ago that now people don't talk about or lean into as much. They just care about like, you have to do this 40% of the time, or like, how could you make that play with the ace of spades in your hand? And
still definitely relevant, the game selection and playing to your strengths and playing within your limits and game sizes and all that. Absolutely. What types of players did you kind of look up to and admire? Any well-known players, some of your favorite players in the game?
I mean, always watching Ivy was just the bet. Like, there was no better for me. Like, the high-stakes poker, like that kind of stuff. When I remember watching that and you see Ivy and you're just like, I don't remember there ever, amongst my friends, there being a debate who the best was.
Yeah.
Like, we just watch it and we'd be like, that guy's the best. Like, I also think, like, I really, I got to become friendly with Negreanu, and, like, I really admire how he's changed with the game. Like, I know there was a long time where people were like, oh, the game has kind of passed him by, whatever, and now he's like better than...
He's probably evolved the best out of the OGs, I'd say, even more so than Ivy and Hellmuth. Negreanu still, no matter what game it is, whether it's, 08, Omaha, Hold'em, he won the Players' Championship last year and he's trying to go back-to-back this year. It's pretty amazing what he can do. How did your relationship with Negreanu come about? I wasn't aware of that.
I remember first meeting him just going to the World Series of Poker, and then I knew somebody who was doing like a show about poker in Vegas, so we like filmed something together, and then we just became like we worked together a few days and just became friendly. And he was always like, he was just a good dude. Like I liked being around him, but I really loved players back in, like, I loved, like, Alan Cunningham. You remember Alan Cunningham? I thought he was, like, just lights out. There were some guys where you were like, man, this guy is
he was
special.
WSOP Player of the Year one year. And 2011, 12,
Alan Cunningham was nasty. And I remember, like, before these guys were celebrities, they were celebrities to me. So, like, I would go to Vegas and I'd be, like, at the Rhino, and you just walk up to the bar and there'd be three of them, like, sitting next to you to the left. And, I never really cared about celebrities, but I would be, 23 at the Rhino and look over and it would be, like, three guys from fucking high stakes poker.
That's where I met Rick, at the Rhino.
So you took a break from acting. Really, you cold turkey after The Sopranos, you stopped, but you recently got asked, and you were involved in a Netflix series by Tom Segura, Bad Thoughts. Yeah. I saw it this morning, and I'm already hooked on it. A very dark comedy. What made you decide to get involved with that project?
So I was doing a podcast with Jamie Lynn, who plays my sister on Sopranos, and Tom Segura and his wife, we became friendly with them, and they were like, why don't you do your podcast for us, for our network? So that's what actually moved me out to Austin, like to come do a podcast for them. And then somewhere along that, Tom was helping us with our podcast before that, but then he asked me, he said, like, I want to make this show with my own money, and then I want to put it on YouTube. But he's like, before I put it on YouTube, I'll show it to some people, and if they want to buy it, maybe they'll buy it. So we shot one thing that was supposed to be like a one-off thing, and I was never supposed to work again. And in my head, I was like, I haven't acted so long. Let me see if I hate it as much as I think I do. So I went, I did it. I hate acting. I confirmed it.
You confirmed it.
Yeah. And then, I just, what was I saying? I confirmed that and then, so when he showed the show to Netflix, they bought it, and they wanted my arc of the show to be in 3 different episodes. So he was like, hey, will you do this? And like, I'm not gonna do a favor for somebody and start it and not finish it. And Tom's a great guy. He's always been great to me. And like, I also enjoy being in that world, like getting to meet all those comedians and how funny they are, and being around them, and just kind of like, again, like poker doesn't give a fuck. It's like they don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like when you go and you do a TV show for HBO gives a fuck.
Right.
Like HBO's great, but they give a fuck. And I just like being around, these comedians, they don't give a fuck. People, when you go play poker, they don't give a fuck. Like I like that thing more of like, you don't feel this pressure to perform. Where like, even if I was doing that show for Tom and knew like this is a big Netflix show, I'd feel this pressure that wasn't there when it was like, you're doing a show for a buddy.
Right.
I
highly recommend it. It's good stuff. Very dark, very, very, very funny.
You're gonna hate it or love it. That's what Tom says too. You're gonna hate it or love it.
I'm interested in that relationship you have with Jamie Lynn. Clearly,
Yeah.
you've known her your entire life almost, and the show went on for however many years the show went on. Then you guys kind of went your own little separate ways, but clearly you guys stayed in touch and you have a special bond. So can you kind of elaborate on your relationship with her and talk a little bit about the podcast that you also have with her going on?
For sure, yeah. I mean, listen, I have 2 sisters, and there's probably 20 people in the world who know my sisters, and when they see me, they say, "How's your sister?" But there were millions of people all the time who, when I'd see them, they'd be like, "How's your sister? How's your sister?" So I really think over, I've known Jamie almost 30 years now. Over those 30 years, of every time somebody brings it up, they're like, "Oh, your sister, your sister, your sister." I think it's become in my brain even more than my sisters that like, this is my sister, and it was, we grew up together on the set. I was 12 when we started. I mean, she was probably 16. So you're growing up with this person, and there was never any sort of like romantic thing between the two of us, which is rare, when you just know person of the opposite sex for 30 years. And especially we were partying together and hanging out, and we'd be in hotel rooms together, and it was just always that like family. And it was also like, on Sopranos, there were guys who were like, not in the mafia, but like, they did jail time. They were like real tough guys, and they would always be like, you take care of your sister, watch out for your sister, this. So even though I was younger than her, it always felt like I was watching out for her and cared for her very deeply. And now,
Plus
probably
you were the only 2 kids on the set, right?
The only 2 kids and the only 2 non-Italians.
Right.
And they never made us feel that way, but we knew.
Right.
People, we knew we were the only 2 non-Italians. But
New Yorkers though. She's from Long Island.
She's Long Island, New York. Yeah, but almost everybody from that show was New York, and I think that's a reason why everybody got along so well too. Like nobody was ever arguing about your camper's bigger than mine, or I didn't get enough lines, or whatever. But Jamie's, and also on top of all of this, at the same time, Jamie is one of the nicest, most genuine, sweet people I've ever met in my life, and. Right in like 2019, I was living in Vegas and I was playing poker, and I was just I was told not to bang on the bar.
That's
And it was 2019, and I was like, I'm ready to get out of Vegas, and I hit her up and I was like, hey, if I move to LA, will you start a podcast with me? And she was like, tomorrow. So I was like, all right,
awesome.
I'm on my way. And then we started the podcast, and that's been.
Did it start in LA?
We started in LA, and then COVID hit, which put us onto Zoom because she moved to Texas, and I was like, this is death. Like, Zooming, trying to, banter with your friends over Zoom, it's just not it, especially if you do it to catch up twice a year is fine, but like once a week to try and be entertaining. And then, so Tom Segura was like, hey, why don't you move out to Austin and do this podcast for us here?
And where did the name Not Today, Pal come from?
I was thinking of the kind of attitude that I wanted for the show, and it was kind of like, just get out of here, like like that kind of, not today, pal, like like when somebody comes up to you, it's kind of the feeling of like when somebody comes up to you on the street and is like, I'm trying to save the rainforest, and you're like, not today, pal. Like, right. So that's the feeling I have almost 24 hours a day, when anybody's like kind of coming up and asking you something, I'm like, just please not today, but then tomorrow's not today also, So yeah, and it was also their podcast, Tom Segura's, is called Your Mom's House, and I really like what they did with their name, where it's this kind of like dumb name, but it's something that you don't hate or love, you know? So there's some people where it's like you think about the name of a podcast and you're like, I hate that name of that podcast, or I love that name, and then it kind of wears away where you're like, I don't like that name as much anymore. And I feel like Not Today, Pal is just, it's hard to hate or love.
What do you think about Cards and Cocktails?
I think Cards and Cocktails is perfect for what you guys are doing here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's great. What, were you not
No, I was on board.
Okay, who came up with the name?
We'll give Rick credit for this one.
There we go.
Okay.
I rarely get credit for Skull.
We'll give Rick credit.
Yeah.
Hey, you ready for some Jeopardy?
Whatever you got, I'm here.
All right, here we go. All right, we're going to start off with, I think, an easy one.
But just to be clear to anyone here, I dropped out in like 8th grade. So don't expect too much.
You're going to do fine.
Don't expect too much from me.
Not today,
You're going to do fine. You grew up in New York City, as we discussed.
Yes.
There are 5 boroughs in New York City. What are the 5 boroughs?
Staten Island.
Yes.
Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens.
There you go.
Yes.
See, 5 points.
If you would not have gotten that one, there
Yeah,
would've had a
that's
problem.
yeah. I luckily I knew that by 8th grade.
Yeah.
They taught that by 8th grade.
Okay, now here might be a tough one, but not how you think. You know, Hendon Mob keeps track of your tournament winnings.
Right.
As of this morning, within $5,000, what is your Hendon Mob earnings?
I mean, I don't want to be boring and sit here and think for 3 minutes.
Think about it. Think about it.
but
We'll sing the Jeopardy song if it gets close.
$5,000.
No tanking. Thought you don't like tanking.
I'm gonna go with 55,000.
You are way off to the bottom. I mean, you've got $85,953 in Hendon Mob earnings. You're not giving yourself enough credit.
They never see me coming.
Are we sure there's not multiple Robert Ilers out there?
No,
Yeah,
I checked it. I checked.
You sure?
Even I don't see me coming. See, I think I'm worth 55 grand at the table. I'm really worth 80. That's good. I mean, we're gonna go into the lodge after this. I'm gonna smash with this
The
new confidence.
lodge.
Yeah.
So you got
I'm
5
playing at
points.
the same table where you play it, by the way.
Yeah. Perfect.
Watch out.
Couple more questions. You're a huge sports fan. You got your Yankees cap on right now.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is only New York sports teams, New York City sports teams, not
No
Buffalo,
Islanders?
No Islanders.
No Islanders
No.
on my podcast? No Islanders?
No. Between the NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB, the 4 majors, how many championships have New York City teams won since 2005? The last 20
since 2005.
20 years.
I hate giving this silence, but I'm trying to think. I'm
all
just
right.
11.
Not even close. The
No,
answer is
way,
2.
Yeah, way under. It's the
I'm-
Yankees with 1 and
No.
since
Both by the Giants. Super
Wow.
Bowls. Super Bowl
Since what
52
year?
and 56.
What year did you say from? Since
2005. The Yankees didn't win since 2003.
Really?
Yeah.
Who won in 2009?
No. Wait. Oh yeah, 2000.
Who won
No,
in 2009,
Yankees won
dude?
after I was 21 years old.
Rick,
I did the research.
I don't know,
2003?
You're not great with research. Who won the 2009
we
World
won,
Series?
We won
What
after
production?
2000. Didn't we win 2006?
We'll get our crack staff to look at it. No, I'm pretty sure.
By
I
the way,
looked all this up.
you have to get negative some points if you
Yeah.
got this wrong. We got to take points away from you. When's the
What's
last time
the
the Yankees
answer?
won the World Series? 2009. Come
on,
bro.
dude.
All
What are you,
right.
Alex Trebek? You're no Alex
All right.
Yeah,
Trebek,
you're,
my
you're
friend.
banned. You're banned from Jeopardy. Let me.
But it's not 11. You answered 12 championships.
take back the Cards and Cocktails
yeah,
credit.
It's not 12. It's
All
not
get
right,
that-
all
yeah,
right,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
We're
No.
I'll give you the points, even though it wasn't
No,
12.
Yeah, the answer was 12, guys. The answer is 11 officially.
All right, we're coming down the home stretch.
God.
You ready? In The Sopranos, Salvatore Bonpensieri had a famous nickname.
Oh, big pussy.
There you go.
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna have no idea. How'd you say his name?
Salvatore
No,
Bonpensieri.
Salvatore. There's got to be a V in there, no? Oh no, maybe not.
Is it true that you didn't watch any Sopranos episodes?
No.
How do you,
Yeah.
how do
Luckily,
you-
I knew that one.
How do you star in that and not even want to?
He knows what everything's going to happen.
I mean, do you go home and watch the Lodge live
That's a
stream?
good point.
he does.
Yeah, he does.
Yes, all the time.
He
All right.
double announces
Yeah.
over himself.
While he's researching how many World Series the Yankees have won, he's got a
Yeah.
clip on of himself.
How
in the
did I
back.
miss that? So you got 15 points to wager. Are you going to wager
Oh,
all
all
of
right,
them?
you said I had to wager all of them, so I'm going to wager all of them. Go
Okay.
ahead. Oh no, you know what? Everybody already wagered all of them, but did they all win?
No.
No,
They
we're not
didn't.
being strict today either. On the you have to answer it as a question.
Yeah,
as
you're
well.
supposed to answer
yeah.
what is.
I should
what is
wager.
big
Should I
pussy?
wager 14 points so that I could say I beat a bunch of people either way? I'll wager
Yeah.
14 points.
14 out of the
Wow,
15
he's gonna keep
points.
one
Yeah.
A
behind
total of 25.
for a
This is
rainy
the first
day.
person who's ever done this. All right, this is a multiple choice. You are
Multiple
a sushi-
choice?
Yes.
Okay.
You are a sushi aficionado. We just had sushi.
The two
How
of us
much?
did. You had chicken
Chicken
teriyaki.
fingers, chicken
teriyaki.
How much was the most expensive sushi ever sold? Was it
Oh my God.
$900, $2,500, or $5,000?
5,000.
Wait. What do you mean the most expensive
What
sushi?
kind
Like
of
one
question
piece?
is
No,
this?
a tray of sushi, an order of sushi. What was the most expensive sushi
Let's
ever
go with
sold?
5,000.
It's obviously the 5,000 or the 2,500. You said what were the it wasn't the first one. What's the second and the third?
900, 2,500, or 5,000?
Fuck, it's 2,500 or 5,000, but I feel like he might put the 2,500.
I don't know the answer, but I'm going to say 5,000.
Skull, you are not playing. This is up to Mr.
Fine.
Iler.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2,500.
You are correct. It is 2,500. The most
Come on.
expensive sushi
According to
was sold
who?
by Sushi Kiraman in Japan.
The same guy who said Yankees never won the World Series.
on July 25th, 2023, for the 20 pieces of sushi for $2,475.34.
We had to just spend more at lunch, right? So I picked it up. Was it more than?
Yeah, it was. Come on. We had the premium yellowtail, the tuna belly.
Yeah.
Where are you looking up these questions, bro?
Dude, I'm the research. You just show up and talk.
You're not much of a researcher.
Maybe a little
up.
more cards, a little less cocktails for you at night when you're home making these questions.
I like it. So Robert Iler finishes with 29 points. I believe that's the leader in the clubhouse.
Ooh.
Skull, any last thoughts?
Everybody's the leader. Everybody we have here, like the newest leader. The newest leader. That's
you
it?
should end it. That should be your thing. Yeah, every time.
We're done?
Even when somebody gets 0 points, the winner in the clubhouse.
How long has it been? Production? How long have we been going for?
30 minutes.
Wow,
30
the
minutes.
longest one we've
That's
done.
a long
It feels
one.
like the shortest one, too.
Yeah, it felt quick.
Well, I guess that's it.
Any final thoughts, Robert?
No, listen, thanks for having me here when you guys do, and just thanks for running the best card room in Austin.
There you go.
Maybe
And
we'll see Robert on a stream coming up.
You'll never see Robbie on the stream.
Maybe.
definitely check him out on
Maybe.
Bad Thoughts on Netflix and his podcast with Jamie Lynn Sigler, which is Not Today, Pal, available on all streaming services.
Oh yeah, you can get that anywhere.
And
You know what you could do today, though, Rick?
what's that?
You can like and subscribe to the channel, and we're
Yes.
going to see you next week or in 2 weeks from now with another special guest.
There we go.
And anybody who comes on the show in the future, just know they will buy you sushi beforehand.
Hey. Cut it. Got it.
That's it from Cards and Cocktails. We'll see you next time.